Hello everyone and welcome. Yes, my name is Arrowfire. Welcome to another episode of Look Out and Shout. On the chug scale this time today, we are reviewing a lighter box than I'm used to. Age of the Primes Megatronus The Fallen, one of the 13 from the Hasbro Chug toy line. Obviously I've taken the figure out of the box, hence why it's empty, but the plastic screening is back. This is my first Age of the Primes figure. On the box we have sort of an image of the upcoming 13 primes and who we're going to see being released. We have some nice artwork on the side, and on the back you have your typical product shots as well. And the fact he is a leader class, there will be 38 steps of transformation and his gun as well. Nice little toy design, very big box, nice to get the kind of meaty feel from it, and it is nice to get the packaging back. I mean, I understand what Hasbro were trying to do, but when you're getting figures getting torn out of boxes in shops, you've got to protect them somehow. Inside the box comes the figure with the accessories as well as the instructions as well. Typical Hasbro product stuff. If you've owned these before, you'll know what I mean. Let's get into the review. And here he is in his robot mode. That does carry some presence. I wasn't so sure of this when I got this figure out of the box. I thought to myself, where's the appeal? Well, when you get it all dressed up, when you put all the weapons in hand, and particularly when you get those flame effects on, you really do notice it. He carries the aggression so well, as his character should. There is a sense of... There's definitely plastic here, and I think I just have to make my peace with that. This is a Chug figure, this is a Generations figure, a Hasbro product, and not a third-party figure. But getting it in hand, whilst my first impression thought, maybe he's not as bulky or as deft as his size suggests, the fact that the colour just really works, the build, the design, this leader class mould really carries it for a very aggressive-looking Prime. There's a lot to admire when he's all dressed up, and I like the fact you can put things in all different positions, as we'll go into in a minute. But overall, when I got him in hand, particularly with the colour used for that furnace light going on around the mouth and then on the chest as well, it really brings an aggressive looking character to life. Let's get in for a closer look. Now, as I say, you can kind of put stuff anywhere. I'll try and get as much light on him as possible. He is a bit dark to see. So I've gone for his missile launcher. Somewhat facing him was like he's shooting himself in the face. But there's other places you can put it, but there's some other movement you need to do. What I have seen some people do is to take off his staff, his trident. You can end up mounting them, both of them together, creating a bit of a staff, which it clips in nicely and you wrap around the fingers. And he effectively has not a dual-wielded weapon, but a twin-sided one. And I like that. That's got a really aggressive look. And that, of course, will free up his arm to hold his gun. Although, at the same time, I like the gun on the back because it pads out the back. Not that he needs any padding, but you get the gun that can be arm-mounted. I prefer it on the furthest back one myself. He has the additional turret, which I placed on the other side. You can stick it on. It's going to be for the alt mode. But as I say, there's customizable options you can go with here. And really armour him up as you like. The flame effects... I would say, did they need them? Probably they did, because otherwise he does carry a turmoil kind of look from the IDW comics, so I do like it, but it really just adds a definition. And I kind of thought we were going away from these blast effects and flame effects, but man, they really make a figure pop. He's really got the aggressive stance on the go. If I get his weapons out of the way a second, I'll show you some close-up. Now, interestingly, on my copy, I'll just tuck in his shoulder, this arm's a little loose, and this elbow is really tight. Just on my copy, but that's very stiff. And what I have noticed is that as part of the transformation, as this flame effect comes off, it does like to knock the shoulder out of socket there a little bit. Nothing that can't be reapplied, but again, with the stiffness I've got on that arm, I have to move the bicep out and put it all back together again. So head rotation, can look up a little bit, look down quite a bit, because he's got that towering presence. Left and right and all the way around. Shoulder articulation, you've seen there is like a hinge outward, but more towards transformation. Hinge out the side, flame effects do like to fall off, but they will pop back on. I'll leave that off for a second. Kind of a shoulder twist, bicep rotation, bend at the elbow, and opening and closing hands on a Chug figure. Would you believe it? Waist rotation, third-party companies take note. Friction out forward and again at the side. Nice bend at the knee, smidgen over 90 degrees, and ankle tilt. Very nice, everything you could want. No toe tilt. I'll show you his feet. Okay, it's going to lend more towards transformation. That's a bit of a shame. I would like maybe a closed off foot. The hollowness is a little bit of a shame. Not that you're going to look at the bottom of his feet, but I will say there's not much gappage on this figure. Not that you can see with most Chug figures. Like there's a bit here and there's a little bit of the inside of the arms, but not to the state that you normally see with some Chug figures. I'm pleasantly surprised at that. I mean, you're paying small masterpiece prices, then I'd want to see some good filling in parts and maybe articulation. I would say when you are trying to move things into positions, you can end up making him do the splits and get a little bit untidy. You have to clean him up a bit. So I tell myself this isn't masterpiece, but if they maybe had some ratchets on the hips just to keep that firm stance whilst you're doing that, that would be nice. I don't know. We've gone to opening and closing hands now on masterpiece figures, which I really do like, but ratchets on Chug figures, I don't know if we're there yet. Maybe one day. And just to show you, that's where he looks like completely naked. All of the accessories off, everything to the side. So he's still a large bot going on. He's still got a lot of features to him. And it's kind of dress up your doll ever since, really. It's all flame effects from there. The turret that comes for the turret in turret mode, ironically enough. Here's missile launcher, and you can start to put these into really anywhere you can find them. As I say, you can sit the turret on the end of his massive cannon or put it on the other side like I've done at the start there. You can have his sword and his staff or his trident into one hand or separate into two. You can start mounting on arms. So there's things to go with. There's options to choose, and there's a fair bit to choose from, which is very nice to see. And that's more or less the figure done, so on to some comparisons. Here he is alongside Studio Series 86 Leader Class Grimlock. My first thought when I got Megatronus out of the box is, did he feel as deft or as heavy as Grimlock did? And really, there's not a lot in it. I was possibly a bit miscommunicated or misguided as to how he was going to be. You can see he's a shade smaller, but not an awful lot in it. He's still considered leader class, so that leader class price point. This is obviously an amazing figure, the whole Dinobot set is. But that was the first thing I did, is I drew a comparison to Grimlock. I wouldn't know if you'd say a Dinobot should be bigger than a Prime in one of the original 13 and a bigger figure such as Megatronus, but you're not really going to be doing comparisons, and they are ever so slightly different toy lines anyway, even if they are the same class, but a good comparison for the bigger sizes anyway. Keeping with the same scale, or at least the same class, here he is alongside War for Cybertron and Siege Netflix edition Megatron, alongside obviously his namesake Megatronus. Do really like how these two look. There is this kind of Master and Padawan style going on here. He's obviously going to be considerably smaller Megatron, really, whatever guys you have him in the Chug scale, but it works. They do look quite good together. I'm quite a fan of this paint scheme anyway for the Netflix edition. Yeah, they look really good, and yeah, I can imagine you could have these two side by side. That's kind of a student-teacher vibe going on. And just for reference, here he is alongside a typical Masterpiece Carbot with Takara Wheeljack. Not really aiming for the same category, and if this guy was supposed to be in a Masterpiece scale, he'd be well up to Optimus Ultra Magnus scale anyway, but that's how they scale together to show you how big this class is, as you would have seen from Grimlock. Okay, let's get this guy transformed up, shall we? And there he is in his vehicle mode. That is a very good transformation, very intuitive, and a very nice tank come the end of it. Now, as I understand, this is a brand new mould. It's not retooled of a Siege Megatron that we've just seen retooled time and time again. And whilst it looks similar to the Armada Megatron that came out in the Chug line, as I understand, I believe this is a brand new mould. Certainly it's the first time I've handled it, and I'm very impressed. I could easily see this being a Megatron going forward. Absolutely. If this is going to be a Studio Series 86 Megatron and they're going to reuse this mould, I can completely get it. Not that Studio Series 86 turned into a tank, but I think the days of seeing Megatron as a gun under the Hasbro banner are long gone. But this is a very good tank, and it could be a standard for a while. There is a sense of, I don't want to say confusion, there's a few steps that are very clever, but then you're almost thinking as you're doing it, why am I doing this? It feels a bit odd to do. I actually quite like the Siege Megatron transformation into that tank. I think that works pretty well, but this just has more to it. Definitely at the leader price point, definitely at the leader scale, and a very clever transformation to boot. The instructions were fairly standard for Hasbro, really. The flame effects are really doing a job here. They look so cool. They are, how can I put this, covering up some gaps, which I suppose they're there to do, but obviously they're adding to the aesthetic as well. It's just really good. I like how it uses all the weaponry on it, all of the accessories that you can arguably have off for robot mode, but very much just adds to the arsenal for this mode. Let's get in for a closer look. So just to put them towards the camera, the very much muted colour scheme. I don't think the light box is really doing it justice. It's a bit lacking on light from this side, so it is a bit more vibrant in the flesh. The black is very striking. Obviously the colour effects are really helping, but it's such an imposing and intimidating looking figure. Now there is some turret articulation, but you do end up moving a bit of it up. What you can do is just move that back down, get a bit of a range and a nice turret rotation, which I do like very much. As such, you also get the sword and trident added to the side. It's got a bit of a Warhammer vibe to it in that sense, very chaos style, and missile launcher and the back to boot. Not much else to say, but we do have rolling wheels on the bottom, which is more than my last Masterpiece review of Fans Toys Right did. Other than that, it is just doing what it needs to do. It has an aggressive look to it, rolls quite well actually, quite slowly. Oh, come back here. Very good, I do like it. You could argue, once you've transformed it, what do you do with it? But it's a tank, it's not supposed to do anything, it's supposed to look imposing. But I do like that you can rotate the turret, and this guy does kind of dance for the camera a little bit. Seeing some great photos going up of it, it just looks intimidating. You can't do too much with it, but you're very glad to have it. I certainly am. Haven't got too much to show you, but straight on to comparison. Well, how about this? This is a Masterpiece comparison from Magic Square, their MP upscale of Brawl for their Combaticons. This is quite telling because there really isn't a lot in it. So we are on the smaller side of Masterpiece, I'll admit that, but this guy on the Chug Leader scale is a smidgen bigger. You might not see it, but he just goes that little bit further. And that is very, very interesting. Obviously, Masterpiece, different company, different perspective, and going for a combiner as well where this isn't. But a bit of an interesting tank comparison. Obviously, that's trying to be a World War II tank, and this is not. But I think that's quite telling. MP versus Chug scale, different scale ranges, and yet they're still quite close. And again, to show the size, here he is alongside Studio Series 86 Commander Class Optimus Prime. Now really this guy is Commander Class because of the trailer he comes with, and there's no point me showing you that with the trailer. The trailer's obviously going to be bigger. But yeah, there you see a comparison to, again, just to see the size of this guy. There's a lot to take on and be in awe of. I think that's the only thing I'm thinking is, would he scale with much? He is obviously Leaderbot, but he's going to scale with the other primes. He is one of the 13, and he's going to be made to be very dominating of that set as he is. So he's not going to be looking to scale in the likes of an Earth mode Optimus Prime necessarily. He's more going to scale with the other primes. But you see what I mean when it comes to size. Here he is alongside a different type of tank with the Studio Series 86 Leader Class Slug. No upgrade kits on this guy. He is just large and in charge as his own right, but yeah. These are big boys. The Leader Class is really coming into its own, and it should be for the price that it is, and at least do feel that Megatronus holds up to that price point, as Slug does too. They are really beefy boys. There's a lot of fun to be had here. So what is my view on the tankiest tank who ever tanked? When I first got it, or first of all when I first saw it, I thought that's an insta-buy, and then I was right to do so because the pre-orders have just gone up and just been gobbled up everywhere. You can't get this for love nor money now, or you do struggle to. I am a little bit dubious when it comes to the Leader price point. I think £55 is a little high for some figures, but I've had more hits than misses, particularly with their Dinobots. When I first got it, I thought, that's nice, and that's it. And I thought, is this just me being largely a Masterpiece collector, being occasionally impressed with the Chug line? It looks a cool design, but I say this term a lot, I don't necessarily have an emotional connection to it. But by the time I started building it up, putting on all of these flame effects and really giving it the guns and the arsenal look, man, was I impressed. Even more impressed when it came to the transformation, how clever it is, if I am correct in assuming this is a brand new mould. Some of the ingenuity that you're doing around the legs, it is going on Masterpiece. It is going into that kind of complex transformations that the Chug line doesn't normally go in for. And I'm just very pleased with it come the end of it. I love how aggressive it looks, and it kind of gives me that emotional connection because I've been reading up on the character that I knew a little bit of anyway, but knowing about the character from previous series and how his kind of thirst for destruction is kind of there, that really comes across with this figure in spades. So it shows that Hasbro really did a good job of capturing it. Then again, yes, the leader price point does allow you to do a bit like the Commander one does as well, but I've gone from being very interested to maybe my interest waning back to being interested when I got it in hand. I guess my only points with it are, as I say, the underside of the feet in robot mode. It would be nice if they were fitted in, but doing the transformation, which as you see are there are his robot feet. That's where the treads lie in. If they could have put something to cover it up to make it look more aesthetically pleasing, I'm sure they would have, but then it would have been another panel to fold away. So I understand why they didn't. And would I have liked maybe Ratchet? I feel a bit cheeky asking for Ratchets on a Chug figure, but would it have been nice just for a little bit of extra stability when he's standing up? Maybe. I guess the only thing I'm thinking now is, does it make me want to get the other 13? Now everyone's been getting, isn't it Solus Prime, the first one that's come out, and there's Primer Prime that's out as well. I'm less inclined to pick those up. But now I'm thinking, can I just have Megatronus on his own? Well, you could, but who am I going to stand him with? As I said, when it comes to where do you put him in your collection, who's he going to scale with and go with? I've got an Alpha Trion, I guess I could put it with him. But otherwise, I kind of have to get the remaining 13. Onyx Prime that's been shown looks brilliant, and I think I'm in for that. But yeah, it might be a case of, do you have to get all 13? Well, I think you might, because it's not like you could put this with an Optimus or Megatron, really. I also want to touch on the Toy Hack stickers that I actually saw on this recently. Now, I can take or leave Toy Hacks. I've used them before, certainly, but for menial things. Sometimes a figure looks good enough not to require them. But if you can see, more so in robot mode than here, you get these kind of yellow accents that are things like his face, his Shredder-esque mask, and his chest as well. The highlighted points, you can really fire them up and real furnace and inferno looking with some of these Toy Hack stickers. And the set isn't that expensive. I am tempted because it's that kind of fire inside that's giving this guy the character. So if anything, I want to accentuate that all the more. And I'm coming down to the point of it does very little wrong. And it does. For the money you're paying and for the price point and other leader classes that have come out before it, it hits a lot of notes. No, it's not a Dinobot. It's not maybe as perfect as them. They are very good, but I really do like what it does. I like that it uses all of its accessories in both modes and how it really adds to the figure. As I say, when you take it away, it can look quite naked without it. So they've done a really good job here. And I'll be maybe a little bit generous. I will give this 4 1/4 Rodimus Star badges, maybe just shy of a half. It's not that it does anything wrong, just maybe a couple of things that I'm finding it's, again, do I have the emotional connection to it? No, but it's given me something to go for. But do I have to pick up the other 13 primes to give this guy a place to go? Or am I happy with him being a standalone? And there we go. That is my review of Age of the Primes Megatronus The Fallen from the Hasbro Generations line. Thanks for watching. And as always, I will see you on the next one.